Should we be worried about this? Because I know the central bank governor in Denmark there was warning about the potential risks. But, you know, I look around the globe and I don't really see anyone that's raising rates really versus actually going lower into more negative territory.
Well, I think surely it's a problem with negative rates. I think the previous speakers talked about that as well. I think that's a problem everywhere for banks, and really it's punishing people with cash, which is not a good incentive structure. Right? With respect to the property market in Denmark, it's been particularly in Copenhagen real estate market that's been going up quite nicely. Not so much outside Copenhagen and in the smaller cities and so forth. And I'm not sure it's at bubble levels, but it's clearly very high. And it's, of course, also fueled by the fact that the interest rates are extremely low.
If we look at bond yields, though, in the US, in Germany, in Japan, there is a fear factor now that perhaps we're at some kind of turning point where yields don't go any lower. Do you think we're at that point, or is this just a temporary correction?
Well, it's a little bit kind of a Ponzi scheme, right? Because there's no real wish to do the reforms that I think is very much needed to see growth. And that goes for Europe in general, to some extent also for US, of course. But I think the real issue here is that there's no growth. The Danish Central Bank has been lowering their forecast for 3 times in a row, latest out yesterday. And you pretty much don't see a vibrant economy. I think the issues with low deflation or inflation is actually not that bad at all, because it's really lower fuel prices. It's also technological advancements that makes productivity cheaper and so forth. So I think it's a paradigm shift that we are moving into. And I think also, I mean, if you look at Japan, if you look at the QE, if you look at basically areas where the debt levels are completely unsustainable longer term, and where growth is completely absent. Of course, this cannot last forever. Exactly when and what the timing will be is very difficult to predict, but there's no doubt we live in a world of debt, and therefore, of course, also it's important to be able to trade that efficiently.
So hi, it's Chris Watling from Longview in the studios. Very interesting what you say. You mentioned paradigm shift, Ponzi scheme, a lack of growth. I mean, it's some quite strong terms. I mean, are you suggesting we need a different system? This one's not working, and if so, what would you propose?
Well, I think the problem right now, of course, is that democracy is mostly focused on redistribution and about a welfare state, and I think it's to some extent suffocating win-win. And the ability for humans to basically collaborate in win-win scenarios. I think there are lots of rules, there's lots of bureaucracy, taxes are quite high, and I think honestly that it is quite an anemic situation we are in. And I agree, of course, Ponzi scheme is a pretty tough word, but I think the fact that now it's left to central banks to pump out liquidity to save the world and to see growth, because there's an inability between politicians to actually do what's needed, I think is a big problem. And I think if that's not gonna change at some point, well, we've saw what happened in Greece, we've seen what happened in places where capital markets are at some point just losing complete confidence, and then reforms are necessary, but then it's also too late, and then it ends in a downward spiral, right? So I honestly believe that I really sincerely hope that politicians understand that it is only win-win that can create growth and prosperity and jobs and you know, a good life for the next generations and so forth. And I think that's completely absent right now.